Welcome back to The Preacher and the Politician. I'm Sinclair.
Mike Redmond.
Brother Mike. And if you've been following us, I hope we've done a good job of establishing the history of Islam from early 600s all the way through to 2001 and even beyond that. And I hope we've done a good job of establishing the fact that it has a history of violence. I mean, it hasn't been hijacked here in the last 40, 50 years.
That it's part of the book, the Holy Book. It's part of its ancient history,
right,
or its early history, and it's part of its modern history.
Right, and I think it's part of the, all along, like for example, here lately, the United States Senate, United States Congress was going to pass a resolution condemning Turkey for their genocide in the early 1900s where the Ottoman Turks killed 2 million people. And even in and this is really a touch on political correctness, they would not say, nobody said, even Fox News would not say, the Ottoman Empire was a Muslim nation. Right. They wouldn't say it. Right. It's politically incorrect to say that. But the truth is, I think, was it 1915?
It was Muslims.
It was Muslims killed 2 million people that were infidels. They say, well, Christians were probably, some of them probably were, but they were not Muslims. And so they were infidels and they killed 2 million of them. And it was genocide. But of course, the current Democrats are trying to embarrass an ally in the Middle East, so they're
kicking us out.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to make hopefully another point, which is Islam and Christianity are not the same. They have nothing in common, basically, and we're going to move on to this issue. In Christianity, here is the way I like to present it. Some people came to Muhammad and said, Muhammad, we're fixing to go into a battle, and they look like they're pretty well armed out there, and what happens if we get killed? And he said, don't worry about it. If you get killed fighting those infidels, you're going straight to paradise. And they said, wow, that sounds good. In fact, when you get there, you're going to have 72 specially made virgins. And they said, wow. Now, I'm going to tell you what history says. It may be embarrassing.
That is not an overstatement.
This is history, okay? It's not. This isn't the Playboy Channel. This is history. The guy says 72 virgins, and he said, yep. Now, this is what they asked him. They said, can one man sexually satisfy or deal with 72 women every day? And here's what Muhammad said. This is history. Muhammad said, Allah will give you the strength of 100 men. You're going to have all the women, and they're specially designed, specially made for you. They're not regular women, they're specially made women. And you're going to have the strength of 100 men. Now that sounds pretty good for a 21-year-old guy who's going out to get it. And you're going to have all the wine you could possibly, in fact, there's going to be rivers of wine.
That's interesting because they weren't supposed to be doing that in this life.
Right. And I'd like to say at this point, to say that is an extension of the book that we go by. Nowhere, I've not found anywhere in the Old Testament or the New Testament that has anything about paradise, to me, going to be all the women at my beck and call and all the wine I can drink and all the grapes or whatever else they're going to have. So I don't find that in the book. Now, the difference here, Brother Mike,
see, that's interesting. So he appealed to their base nature.
To the flesh.
To attract them to involve in jihad.
Right. So he says, the prophet said, the person who participates in holy battle, in Allah's cause, and nothing compels him to do so except believe in Allah and his apostle, will be recompensed by Allah either with reward or booty if he survives, or will admit it to paradise if he is killed in the battle as a martyr. That's in parentheses. Hadith 135.
And another interesting thing about that is that it's the only security for eternal life that a Muslim has.
Right.
They, when you look at their plan of salvation or for their hope of salvation, there is no assurance of salvation other than martyrdom in jihad.
That is the assurance of salvation. Now, I'd like to make a comparison.
All right, go ahead.
In John 6, Gospel of John, chapter 6. Please, when you get through listening to us, please go read it. An event occurs there where the people were following Jesus, and Jesus, and I'll make a long story short, so you're following me to get the loaves and the fishes, aren't you? The welfare mentality didn't start in 1965. Jesus said, he said something about work for the works.
Well, he said, I'm doing the works of my Father, and then the people wanted more bread, and so they said to him, what can we do do that we might work the works of God.
Yeah.
And of course they want bread. They wanted this supply of
Right.
bread. And his response was, this is the work of God, that you believe. That you believe. So there's the great work of God.
So faith that you believe.
Is the great work, so to
That's the
speak.
great-
I mean, there's an irony there. There certainly
That
an
is the
irony.
great work of God. So here's the comparison. One of the many comparisons. In Islam, you have eternal security if
By
you die.
By simple
You got to die
faith.
in the act, though.
Yeah.
You got to die in the act. It's conditional. It's even that is conditional. I mean, if you kill a bunch of infidels and later on don't give tithes like you're supposed to, all that can be wiped out.
Now, did you say that right? Now, this is in Islam, right?
Mhm. This
In
is-
Islam, okay.
This is good. So these guys who flew the planes into the Twin Towers all left letters. You know that guy?
I know.
Oh, I can't remember his name right now.
Oh, I don't remember. Any
But
names.
anyway, he left a letter talking about how paradise was going to be great and all the women and the wine and stuff like that. So these people believe this. So if you're sitting out there saying, well, I don't believe that, I'm happy you don't. But these do. But here's what we're going to request you to do. Jesus Christ said, here's the great work,
That you might believe.
that you might believe that I am the Son of God. And in 1 John, the 5th chapter, 1 John, the 5th chapter, the gospel writer writes, who is he that has overcome the world? Not who flies his plane into a building.
Yeah. But he that believes.
That Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And so the work of Christ on the cross, he took your place. He took my place.
So the work was done by him.
Right. He who knew no sin became sin.
There is no work
Right.
left for us to do on this side of the
Right.
salvation
Right.
equation.
Right. So you say, well, Brother Mike, that means I don't have to, I can just do whatever I want to do?
You know, if somebody claims to be saved and says, wowee, that gives me license to do whatever I want to do, that is probably an indication that God has not done his work in their lives.
He hasn't finished it, didn't he?
But in fact, they can't do
Right.
anything to merit salvation.
Right.
And that's why I talk about, you know, on the front side of salvation, there are no works. On the back side of salvation, the New Testament says that we have been saved unto good
That's
works.
right. That is Ephesians 2, 8, 9, and 10. I would like to move to one other subject, please. Credibility. History. Here again, we're going to have history. Allah is the name of the moon god that was well aware. People in Arabia were well aware of the moon god Allah.
So in pre-Islamic Arabia, the word Allah was already used.
Right. It was a pagan god. In their temple, they had 360 gods. Allah was one of them. Allah was the male deity. The sun was the female deity. They had babies. In fact, all the stars are their babies. They had the 3 daughters of Allah, and they worshiped the 3 daughters of Allah. Allah was a pagan god. He was a moon god, but it was a big deal.
Oh, he was the biggest.
And Allah's tribe and moon worship was a big deal. And so it was easy to say to people, Allah is the God. All those other gods are not gods anymore.
They were really already believing
Right. They already believed that Allah was God.
Yeah.
And so the word Allah, all it means is the God. That's all the word Allah means. So Allah was, in the Quran makes the claim that there is no earthly source for anything in the Quran.
that it's all this direct
Right.
revelation, and yet you can go to all the rites, all the ceremonies of Islam, virtually all of them, and
Right.
find them in pre-Islamic
Right.
Arabia.
Running around the temple was a pagan worship. Going out in the desert and throwing rocks
Throwing
and
stones
stones at the devil was a pagan worship. Now, we're running out of time, and I want to read to you out there this. This is history. This is all we're talking about. We don't have to make this stuff up. Allah is found in Arabic inscriptions prior to Islam. Encyclopedia Britannica. The Arabs, before the time of Muhammad, accepted the worship after a fashion the supreme God called Allah. Encyclopedia of Islam. And it goes on and on and on. In conclusion, if you listen to what we said, please give us your notes. If you have any more questions, either on what must I do to be saved, by Jesus Christ and His blood alone, or if you have more questions about Allah and Islam, please respond to our program. So for the preacher and the politician.
Oh, and there's one other thing. You know, why is it that the symbol of Islam today is the crescent moon?
Well, what do you think?
Yeah, go figure.
What do you think? Yeah.
God bless.
All right. Thank you very much.